All right. So what I did is I took 3 days of trials, right? Day one, day two, and day three. And I extracted the testimony from all of the witnesses for all three trials, and I condensed them all into one timeline, right? So it tells the complete story without having to go to each trial and listen to each witness. I put them all on one timeline. One thing though I couldn't find was Liv Vince. I don't know what Liv Vince was, but apparently, I guess I'm not sure if he testified or not. I didn't see it in the footage that I reviewed, so I'm not gonna comment on it. I'm just gonna kind of just let it run, and let me know what you think in the comment section. Later.
All rise. District Court of Iowa is now in session. Honorable Judge Latham presiding.
You may be seated. Good morning, everyone. We're here in the matter of State of Iowa versus Henry Dinkins, case number FECR 415636. Mr. Dinkins is present, and he is represented by his attorneys Chad Freese and Joel Waters. The state of Iowa today is represented by Kelly Cunningham, and I understand Assistant County Attorney Liz O'Donnell will be also representing the state. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Please have a seat.
Please state your name for the record and spell both your first and your last name.
My name is Aisha Langford. Aishia. Last name Langford, Lankford.
Okay. Miss Langford, how old are you?
I'm 31.
Okay. Do you have any children?
I do. I have 3 children.
And we're using initials for your oldest child and your youngest child. What are the initials of your oldest child?
My initials is CLS.
Okay. And what was CLS's age back in July of 2020?
CJ would have been about 14, I want to say, I believe.
Okay. What's his date of birth?
It's, November 20th, 2006.
2006.
Yes.
All right. And so then actually, he hadn't yet had his 14th birthday if we're talking about July of 2020. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, that's fair to say.
All right. So the child would have been 13.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And then what is the name of your second child?
My second child is Breasia Terrell. The initials?
No, we're using Breasia's name, but just for the other 2 children, we're using initials. And then what is Breasia's date of birth?
Her date of birth is 12/4/2009.
How old was Breasia then as of July of 2020?
She was 10.
All right. And then finally, your youngest child?
Name or just initials?
Just initials for him.
DRL.
Okay. And then what was DL's age back in July of 2020?
He would have been 8.
All right. Now let's talk about the personalities of your children. Your oldest, right. How old was Mr. Dinkins when you met him?
Mr. Dinkins told me he was in his late 20s.
Okay. Did you later find out that that was not true?
Yes.
Okay. And was there quite an age difference between the 2 of you?
Yes, about a 19-year difference.
Okay. How long were the 2 of you involved in a relationship with one another?
For like a year or 2.
Okay. And then during the course of that relationship, then did you become pregnant with DL?
I did.
All right. If you were to describe Mr. Dinkins' involvement with Breasia's life during the period of a year or so that you were dating him, did he really have a lot of involvement with Breasia?
He was around. He helped out and looked out for him and everything like that.
Okay. Did you consider him to be a father figure of Breasia?
Yes, for the most part, yes.
Okay. But then was there a period of time that he was no longer actively involved in your life?
Yes, when he got incarcerated.
Oh, okay, all right. All right, so was Mr. Dinkins a regular figure within your life or the children's life?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay, all right. Did Breasia consider him to be a father figure at all?
For the most part, yes, she looked up to him.
Okay, all right. Was Mr. Dinkins somebody that was actively involved in Breasia's life over the course of her 10 years?
No.
Was it something that was very sporadic?
And what does that mean? I'm sorry.
Just, occasionally, there'd be occasional contact throughout
Yes.
the course of her 10 years.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Now, let's talk about the summer of 2020. Had Mr. Dinkins been a part of your life or the children's lives leading up to the summer of 2020?
Yes, we used to do barbecues down at the river. He would come down, so he would spend time with Detorius more. So we just hang out down there, make hot dogs and stuff like that with the kids and family.
Did you ever meet a woman by the name of Andrea Culberson?
I did.
When did you first meet Andrea Culberson?
I met her in the grocery store back in June with Mr. Dinkins.
All right. Did they happen to be at a grocery store that you had gone shopping at?
Yes, me and my mom had went shopping, and I had ran into him, and he had introduced us.
Okay. And so then during that month of June, when you talked about there being some cookouts, had Andrea Culberson been down to a cookout, at least one cookout, there that summer that you had occasion to sit and visit with her?
Yes.
How would you describe the two of you, as far as hitting it off and, really identifying with one another?
I mean, for the most part, I thought she was okay, We were just talking and things like that, and just getting to know one another. I didn't see anything different with her. Like, she seemed like a nice person.
Please state your name for the record and spell both your first and your last name.
Andrea Culberson, AndreaCulberson.
Ms. Culberson, how old are you?
39.
When would you have met Aisha Langford relative to the events of July of 2020, if you recall?
At a gathering down at the river.
Did you have an opportunity to meet the children of Aisha Langford?
I have met Detorius once, but not Breasia.
All right. And who did you understand Henry Dinkins to be the father of?
Detorius.
Okay.
Well, July 8th, I was trying to get a hold of Mr. Dinkins' number because I knew he might have had some landlord numbers or whatever. And we were driving to a friend's house, and I had saw him at the quick shop on 53rd.
Okay.
And Tori said, "That's my dad." So I had pulled over, and we were talking. We exchanged numbers. He told me that he would take the Tories for a couple of days for me.
Did you not previously have his telephone number within your phone?
I had his phone number, but I had rebooted my phone because me and an ex-girlfriend broke up. So I had switched my number and things and rebooted the phone. So I didn't have his number. It didn't save, and my mom couldn't pull it up or remember it.
All right. After you received his number then on that date, did you add that to your contact list?
Yep, I added the Tories' daddy on as my contact, yes.
All right. So if you were to receive a call from Mr. Dinkins' telephone number, the name that would populate on the phone would be what?
Detorius' daddy.
Okay.
He said that he will come get Detorius on the 9th. And I said, well, just let me know so I'm able to call my mom because I had to work.
Okay. All right. Relative to those plans, who did those plans include of your children?
It included Detorius.
And that was the only child to go?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any intention for Breasia to go and spend a few days with Mr. Dinkins?
No.
All right. And did you even feel comfortable with Breasia going and spending a few days with Mr. Dinkins?
Yes.
Okay. But that was not the plan?
No, it wasn't the plan.
And what was your understanding of what developed when Aisha had run into Mr. Dinkins on July 8th of 2020?
You mean July 9th?
No, July 8th, before the day of July 9th. Did you know that they had run into one another on July 8th?
Yeah, but I didn't know until the 9th that DL supposed to go with his dad.
All right. And that's what I want to talk with you about. Now, what did Aisha share with you as far as the arrangements had been made for DL to spend time with Mr. Dinkins?
Talking about from the 9th?
Yeah.
Well, I had doctor, but she told me when I got to the house, make sure that DL take a shower, brush his teeth, comb his hair, because Henry was coming to get him.
All right.
And I'm supposed to keep him for a couple of days, I think. I'm not for sure.
Sure. So did you have a doctor's appointment earlier in the morning then
Yeah.
before Mr. Dinkins came to pick up
Yeah.
DL? Were you scheduled to work on July 9th of 2020?
Yes.
Okay. And what was your scheduled hours, if you have some recollection?
I had to work 11 to 4, but I had stayed an extra hour because staff hadn't made it in yet.
All right. So then you worked a little bit later than that afternoon?
Yes.
Okay. What time of the day would Mr. Dinkins have come over to your apartment to pick up DL?
It's about I want to say almost 11:30.
Okay. And would that have been in the morning?
Yes, ma'am.
Describe what happened when you realized that Mr. Dinkins had arrived there at your apartment. What were you doing?
I was making sure DL was getting ready.
Okay. All right. Did Mr. Dinkins come into the apartment?
Yes, but I don't know who. I don't know if Brazier let him in or CS let him in because I was in the back room making sure that DL was getting ready.
Certainly. And then, what room would he have come into when he entered the apartment?
The living room.
All right. At some point, did either Breasia or CS indicate to you that Mr. Dinkins was there to pick up DL?
No, because when I heard somebody at the door, I came out the back room.
Okay. And then what developed when you came out of the back room and presumably into the living room? Is that where you went to?
Yeah.
Okay. What happened when you came into the living room?
Only thing I remember, they got in the Brazier and SC. I had got on them for something. I can't remember what it was. And they asked me, Mama asked Henry, can I go with him? I said, no, you're not. You're not going. So when Henry got there, they asked Henry, and Henry said no, because I'm whatever that little small car. I don't know. I'm not really good at names for cars, but I know it was the black two-door that had Queen and King on it.
And would that be a black Camaro?
I think so. Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. So go ahead.
Yeah.
Continue to describe then what developed.
Then after that, that's when DL said Brazier come on, and I said no. So Brazier asked me to call her mom, and I said no, because I don't like calling your mom when she's at work and things. So when DL was walking out the door, he just said, come on, Bray. So I just I said, so when she called me at lunch, I'll let her know Bray just with Henry and DL.
Okay. Now, did CS want to be able to go along with Breasia and DL?
Yes, he wanted to go, but Henry told him no because the car wasn't big enough.
Was Henry more than willing to allow Breasia to come along?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Did he say no to Breasia or
No.
simply CS?
No, he didn't say nothing. Oh, well, he did say at first the car was too small. But when DL told Brazier to come on, she just went on out the door.
To your knowledge, did Bree want to go with you to Henry's house?
No, I asked.
You asked who?
My grandma.
You asked your grandma what?
Can my sister come with me?
Do you remember if your grandma was going to allow Bree to go with you?
I think she had called my mom, if I'm correct.
All right. Did you contact your daughter to notify that Breasia had also gone along with Mr. Dinkins?
No, I waited until she called me because I don't like calling her when she's at work.
Absolutely. Did you receive any calls that day from your mother to indicate that another one of your children went with Mr. Dinkins other than just DL?
I guess after we had got done with the rush, maybe it was probably like after like 2 p.m., 3 p.m., she was saying that Breasia had went along, and then I had got the text stating that she was with Dinkins.
Do you recall going to someone else's house and playing video games?
I don't recall.
Have you heard the name Vincent Howard before?
It sounds familiar.
Little Vince?
I don't think so.
At some point, though, you would have gone to Andrea and Henry's house.
Yes.
We're calling it a house. What type of building was it?
It was an apartment.
Do you recall what time of day that Mr. Dinkins would have returned to the apartment with DL and Breasia?
I do not recall, but I was at work.
You were working?
Yes.
Do you go to work at an established office?
No.
Where do you work from?
Work from home.
And were you working from home back in July of 2020?
I was.
Once the children got there at the apartment, describe how the day played out.
Oh, I was at work. They were in there doing what they do. I was like, please be quiet because, I'm at work.
Once you got to the apartment, what did you do?
I was playing GTA.
And when you say GTA, what do you mean?
I was playing video games.
Within your bedroom then, the workstation that you've identified as having been set up, was that your workstation that you utilized performing your responsibilities for AT&T?
That's correct.
Where in the apartment were you playing GTA?
In the living room.
While you were in the living room, where was Bree?
In the back room.
When you say the back room, what else was in that room?
A bed, a TV, and a closet.
In that apartment, was there only one separate room that had a bed in it?
Yes.
What was Bree doing in the back room?
Playing some type of card game.
Did you say car?
Yeah.
Was it a type of video game?
Yes.
While Bree was in the back room, where was Andrea?
In the back room as well.
Do you know what she was doing?
When you indicate that Breasia became interested in what you were doing, were you working at your workstation there in the bedroom?
I was.
Were you showing Breasia anything associated with your work responsibilities?
Oh, I actually let her sit in my chair and actually watch what I do.
How was she responding to that?
She was happy. She was happy to learn what I was doing. She seemed interested in customer service, so I was like, sit right on in, jump in with me.
Where was Henry when Bree was in the back room?
In the back room as well.
Where was Bree in that room?
On the bed.
And where was Andrea in that room?
On the bed.
And where was Henry?
On the bed.
And where were you again?
In the living room.
What were Henry and Andrea doing on the bed?
Watching her.
Watching Bree?
Yeah.
Did you find that weird?
Yes.
Why?
Because I was in the living room alone and they were in the back room.
You thought it was weird that they were leaving you alone?
Yes.
Were both children playing video games?
Me, Mr. Dinkins, and Breasia were playing on my phone. Ditorius was the one more interested in playing the Grand Theft Auto.
What room was DL located in when he was playing Grand Theft Auto?
In the living room, then eventually the bedroom.
And when you and Mr. Dinkins and Breasia were playing video games, what room were you located in?
It was in the living room.
Okay. Were you ever in the bedroom, though, playing the games?
I don't recall.
Do you recall sitting on the bed with Breasia and playing games?
That I do remember.
Okay. And so when I asked you about being in the bedroom, sitting on the bed, was Mr. Dinkins there on the bed with Breasia playing the game?
No, that I don't remember. remember.
But you do recall being in there in the bedroom with
Yes.
Breasia playing?
Yeah.
Now, at some point, as the evening went on, did you have dinner?
Yeah.
Do you remember what you ate?
No.
At some point, then, did your mom come over to the apartment?
Yes.
Where were you and the children living during this period of time?
At my mom's address at 614 West 63rd Street.
Okay. Had you been living there long?
Yeah, probably a few weeks, possibly.
Okay. And so had there been some transition from your previous residence moving over to your mother's residence?
Yes, ma'am.
Had you completely unpacked all of your belongings and the children's belongings by the events of July 9th through July 10th?
No, our things were actually in storage, and I had just like our clothes that we had on hand in the back of the truck.
So then when you packed up clothing for Detorius and Breasia to go over to Andrea Culberson's, where were you collecting those belongings from?
At my mom's house in the back. I just popped the trunk. It was just going through the clothes.
Sure. What types of clothing items did you package up for the children?
I had packed up, I can't exactly recall the exact things that I packed, but I packed up some pajamas, and then I had packed up an outfit for both of them for the next day.
Okay. Did you specifically include pajamas for each of the children in the bag of clothing that would have gone over?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, was it simply one bag of clothing, or was there multiple bags of clothing that went over, if you recall?
It was just one bag.
One bag of clothing. And then did you have any idea what Breasia was wearing when Mr. Dinkins picked her up?
No.
Did you end up going to the Jersey Meadow apartment complex located right next to Costco there on 53rd?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When you went over to the apartment complex, was this an area that you were familiar with?
Yes, I worked in the area.
Okay. Now, this particular apartment complex, did you have any friends or family that lived there?
No.
Okay. Other than going over that day, was this a location that you had ever gone and spent time at before?
No.
Had any of the children ever been over to this particular apartment complex to spend time?
No.
Would this have been an apartment complex that DL would have been familiar with?
No.
Would this have been an apartment complex that Breasia was familiar with?
No.
Was this an apartment complex that CS was familiar with?
No.
Before we talk a little bit further about that, I want to talk about sleep patterns.
Okay.
Just between you and your three children. How would you describe your sleep pattern when you go to bed at night?
I'm out like a light.
All right. If you were to describe CS's sleep pattern, how would you describe that?
Like, the same. We both, once we're down.
How about Breasia?
Yeah, when she's down for the most part. Yes.
Okay. And then DL?
Same.
All right. Was Breasia ever known just to wake up and wander off?
No.
Okay. Was Breasia ever known to engage in sleepwalking?
No.
Okay. Was Breasia a child who, would just take off on her own?
No.
Okay. And if Breasia was in a location that she wasn't familiar with, would she be the type of child that would leave that location, just to search out mom or grandma?
No.
Okay. If Breasia didn't feel comfortable in a location that she was at, what would she do?
She would try to first contact my older sister or myself, or a number, or just someone that she knows, so then, they're able to figure out, so they're able to figure out exactly where she is and things.
Did either Breasia or Detorius have a cell phone with them that they would have been able to take to the apartment?
No, they didn't have a cell phone with them.
Did Mr. Dinkins have your telephone number before the children went to spend time with him on July 9th?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How are you sure of that?
Because I gave it to him, and he also had my mom number as a backup, so he had contact.
Okay. Describe what happened then when you went over to the complex.
Now, did your mom actually come inside the apartment?
No.
Where did she stay?
She was in the car.
Where was Henry when your mom dropped off those bags of clothing?
He was outside or he was inside?
Can you say that again?
He was outside or inside?
When you say outside, what do you mean?
Standing by the door.
So he was either inside the apartment or outside of the apartment somewhere.
Yes.
Where was Andrea when your mom dropped off the clothes?
Inside.
When your mom came over to drop clothes off, did anybody go outside to pick up those clothes from her?
Me and my sister.
So what happened when you met with your mom?
We grabbed the clothes and then we went back inside after we got done playing with the dog.
That was my next question. Was your mom alone?
Yes.
Did she have a pet with her?
Yes, you did.
Was it your pet dog?
Yep.
Did Bree try to keep the dog?
Yes, she did.
She wanted to bring it inside.
Yes.
Did your mom allow that to happen?
No.
I sat out there. I talked to Breasia for a little bit because she was holding her dog. She was trying to go in with the dog and things, and she was letting me know that she was learning how to be an AT&T agent, and she was really excited about it.
Okay. When you got there to the complex then, did you never go inside the apartment?
No, I actually sat outside because she had came running around the building complex of the apartment. She ran around.
Okay. And then did Breasia come meet you at the car?
Yeah, she met me at the car.
All right. So now tell us about the family pet. Had you taken a family pet with you?
Yes, I had her dog.
Okay. When Breasia saw that her little dog was in the vehicle, how did she react?
She was pretty excited. She was like, "Ooh, mommy." And I'm like, "Yeah, you can't take her," because she tried to take her inside. I'm like, "They ain't gonna want that dog inside the house." So I took her back, and she was like, "Oh, okay. I love you. Bye."
Okay. Did you have any direct contact with Mr. Dinkins or Andrea Culberson when you dropped the clothes off there at the apartment?
No, I just headed home.
After your mom dropped off those clothes, did both you and Bree go back inside that apartment?
Yes.
What did the two of you do after you both went back inside the apartment?
We finished playing our games.
And did you go back to the same spots you had been at earlier?
Yes.
And where were Henry and Andrea at those points?
Still in the back room.
Were there any meal times or bath times that night?
Yes.
Describe.
They both took showers, of course, separately, and they were given oversized white shirts to wear to sleep.
All right. With the child coming to the apartment, was there some discussion about how you would handle sleeping arrangements?
Yes.
And what accommodations did you put in place to handle at least one extra individual staying there in the apartment?
Me and Mr. Dinkins would stay on the air mattress, and the kids would take the bedroom.
Okay. Who gave them oversized white shirts to wear to sleep?
Mr. Dinkins.
All right. Who did those shirts belong to?
Mr. Dinkins.
What size is Mr. Dinkins?
Last time I checked, 4XL.
All right.
Now, the clothing that your mom brought you, did that include pajamas or clothes to sleep in?
Yes.
After the two of you took showers, were you given clothes to change into?
Yes.
Were they the clothes that your mom brought for you?
No.
What were you given to wear?
A long white shirt.
Do you know whose shirt that was?
Henry's.
Now, when you say a long white shirt, what do you mean by long?
It's over our fitting. I think that's what it's called.
Can you say that again?
Fitting.
How long on your body did the shirt go down?
Kind of like our knees.
Did you think that was weird?
Yes.
Why?
Because it wasn't our clothes that my mom brought us.
Once the children took their baths, did they have dinner?
Yes.
All right. And then after dinner, before people started to go down for bed, what were the activities within the apartment?
That's it.
Okay. Were the kids continuing to play video games?
Yes. I don't know how long Victoria stayed on the game after I went to sleep, but that's all I know.
Okay, who was the first individual of the four of you to go to sleep that evening?
Beasia.
Where did Breasia lay down to go to sleep?
The bed.
After you and Bree changed into those white shirts, what did the two of you do?
We ate, and then we laid down, getting ready for bed.
Go ahead. What time does that come in then? Good night, Mom.
Let's see, that one comes in at 9:13 p.m.
Gotcha. All right, from there then?
From there, at 9:16 on July 9, 2020, I sent a message saying, "Good night, I love you, Branding."
Where did the two of you lay down?
In the back room, in the bed.
Did you lay down at the same time?
Yes.
When the two of you laid down to get ready for bed, where was Henry?
In the living room.
Did you notice anything about Henry at that time?
He was upstaring.
He was what?
Upstaring.
He was staring?
Yes.
Staring at what?
It looked like the back room that I was laying in.
Where was Henry when you saw him staring?
In the living room.
Now, when you were laying on the bed, where exactly were you on the bed?
Kind of like in the middle.
Where was Bree?
Kind of on the edge of the bed.
When you say the edge, was she closer to the window or the side of the bed?
The side.
Earlier, you said there was only one bedroom in this apartment. Is that fair?
Yes.
Do you know where Henry and Andrea were sleeping that night?
It looked like an air mattress.
Where was the air mattress?
In the living room.
Did you ever see Henry or Andrea actually lay down on the air mattress?
Andrea.
And when you saw Andrea lay on the air mattress, where were you?
Still laying down.
In the bedroom.
Yep.
And where was Henry at that time?
Still sitting up.
At some point, did you fall asleep that night?
Yes.
Do you know if Bree had fallen asleep before you?
Yes, she fell asleep before me.
At some point, did you feel something during the night?
A kick.
Do you know where that kick came from?
My sister.
Where were you kicked?
On my leg.
How would you describe that kick?
It was like a hard kick.
Now, have you slept in the same bed as your sister before that night?
Before we went to his house?
Yes.
Yes.
Had she ever kicked you before while you were sleeping?
No.
Now, when you felt that kick, did you wake up?
I woke up just a little bit.
All right, let's discuss the weather.
Okay.
Tell us about the weather conditions that evening. What time do you believe you would have dropped clothing off there at the apartment complex?
Around about maybe a little bit before 6:30 or a little after 6:30ish.
Now let's go back to our state's exhibit 96 where did you have to pull over because the rainstorm was so heavy you couldn't see?
I had pulled over by, there's like this, it's like a liquor store, and then there's a apartment complex, like a candlelight apartment complex over there, and there's North across the street up there.
And when you say North, are you talking about North High School?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. What did you do then because it was so heavy, the rain was so heavy?
I sat in the car, listened to my music, playing with the dog, and I had called my mom and told her I had got caught in the rain.
Okay.
And I told her I'd be home as soon as the rain slowed down a little bit to where I was able to see.
All right. How long, if you have any idea, but how long did you have to sit there before you were able to start driving again?
Maybe, estimate probably like 10, 15 minutes or so.
All right. And was it an extremely heavy rainstorm during that period of time?
Yes.
Okay. Does that become something that is very relevant to discovers once Briasia's body was found? And if you don't know the answer to that, that's just fine.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
You just know that it was raining really hard on July 9th.
Yeah, it was getting down out there.
Okay. After you fell asleep, was there any point in the night that you woke up?
Yes.
When did that occur?
It was like at 3 o'clock in the morning. Nature called. So I went and I kind of glanced over. I had no glasses on, so everything was kind of fuzzy. So I saw that she was not there. So I was like, okay, let me go get my glasses so I can see. And I felt on the bed. I'm like, okay, she's not here. And my first reaction, call Mr. Dinkins. No.
All right. When you woke up to go to the bathroom at 3 a.m., was Mr. Dinkins there in the living room of the apartment?
Not at all.
Did that seem odd to you that he wasn't there in the apartment at 3 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay. With the children, from there, is that when you entered the bedroom?
Yes.
Did you see Detorius?
Yeah, I did.
Where was Detorius located at, or DL, I should say, I'm sorry.
He was on the foot of the bed.
Okay. After you put your glasses on, what were you able to confirm?
That she was not there.
Did you check throughout the apartment to see if the child was anywhere in the apartment?
I did.
What areas did you check?
I checked the bathroom again, just in case. I checked the bedroom. I checked the living room. I checked the kitchen. I checked everywhere.
Did you check the closets?
No, I did not.
Okay. Did you look under the bed?
No, I did not.
All right. At any rate, did you find Briasia anywhere?
Nowhere.
With Briasia being absent from the apartment and Mr. Dinkins being absent in the apartment, how were you feeling?
I don't think there's a word for it.
Okay. Did it make sense?
No.
At any point in time, did Mr. Dinkins wake you up to tell you that he was going to be leaving the apartment?
No.
At any point in time, did Mr. Dinkins wake you up and tell you that he needed to take Briasia somewhere?
No.
Did Mr. Dinkins suggest that there was some type of medical emergency for Briasia?
No.
Did Mr. Dinkins communicate to you that he would have reached out to her mother because the child wanted to go home?
No.
Was there any type of emotional disturbance within the apartment to suggest that Briasia had gotten upset in the middle of the night and wanted to go home?
Absolutely not.
All right. From there, then, when you noticed that Mr. Dinkins was gone, you noticed that Briasia was gone, what did you do?
First thing I did was try to call him. Mr. Dinkins.
What happened when you tried to call him?
It rang and it went to voicemail.
All right. Did you try to call him more than once?
Yes.
What happened?
Same thing.
Did you subsequently discover something?
Did I discover something? No.
About his phone?
Oh, it was off.
Okay. What did you do next?
After I got done calling him, there was no answer. I stayed up.
Okay.
I didn't have his phone. I didn't have Miss Langsford's number, so I couldn't call her. So I just stayed up.
Okay. When you say that you stayed up, what room were you located in?
Living room.
Okay. When you stayed up, did you turn the lights on?
No.
Describe then the environment within the apartment.
So when I got done going to the bathroom, it was dark. No lights, nothing was on. And then like a half hour later, I hear a key. And then heard someone softly coming up the stairs. I guess he thought I was asleep and didn't expect me to be up. And when I saw him, he had on a whole different outfit. So I don't know.
All right. Let's talk about the description of his outfit. Do you recall what Mr. Dinkins was wearing when you fell asleep?
I do.
What was he wearing when you fell asleep?
Kind of like a white beater and colorful shorts, like white, blue, and pink.
All right. And then when he came up the stairs, what do you remember, if anything, about what he had on?
I would say like a white t-shirt and some blue shorts that look like bandana pattern and some sneakers.
Do you recall the color of the sneakers?
I do not.
That's all right. When he got to the top of the stairs, what was his reaction to seeing you sitting up?
He was kind of surprised, kind of shocked.
Okay. Was there any dialogue that you initiated with Mr. Dinkins?
I tried.
Tell us about that.
I was like, what's going on? Where you going? What's going on? And he's like, I'll be back. And about time we're talking, he's inside the room in the closet grabbing something. What is he grabbing? I do not know. But while he's grabbing that, I looked out the window and saw Bridget outside of the car. So now my heart's like, okay. She is with him, she's safe, but yeah, it just seemed weird to me, but I didn't know what to say.
All right. If you were to describe the dynamics in your relationship with Mr. Dinkins, specifically relative to his personality and your own personality, how would you describe the dynamics?
Opposites attract.
All right. How would you describe your personality?
Quiet.
Mr. Dinkins' personality?
Very outspoken.
Between the two of you, was one a stronger personality over the other?
Yeah.
And who would have the stronger personality?
He would.
All right. Were you the type of person that would challenge Mr. Dinkins?
No.
How would you respond to him?
Submissively.
All right. What room or what window did you look out when you said you saw Briasia?
The window above my bed.
Where specifically did you see Briasia standing?
She was like right between like the passenger door and the back door, like right there.
Of what?
Of the Impala.
The maroon Impala?
Yes.
And how did you know it was Briasia?
Her description is very distinctive. Her hair is very distinctive. The gigantic shirt she was wearing.
Okay. So was she in that white large t-shirt that Mr. Dinkins had the children put on after they took their baths?
Yes, ma'am.
When you looked out the window and you saw Briasia standing along the passenger side of the Chevy Impala, were you able to see her face to get a sense of any expression or emotional state for the child?
No, ma'am.
Explain.
It's like her head was like, had an aerial version of it. So I can only see like the top. I couldn't see her face.
Okay. And then when you looked out the window, could you see the front of her body, or was it the back of her body, or even a side profile?
Like a side profile.
A side profile. Do you have any idea what time that was that Henry Dinkins came back to the apartment and you looked outside?
It was after 3:30.
How do you know it was around the time frame of 3:30?
Because I looked at my phone.
And is that how you were able to identify it as 3:30?
Yeah.
When Mr. Dinkins went into the bedroom, where was Detorius at?
Sleeping on the bed.
Was he still in his original position?
I'm going to presume.
All right. When Mr. Dinkins went into the bedroom to get into his closet, did he keep that bedroom light off?
Yes.
As he went to his closet, you'd indicated that he got something out of the closet?
Yes.
Did you have any idea what it is that he was getting?
I do have no clue.
When he moved away from the closet, could you see anything in his hands?
No.
Do you know that he retrieved something from the closet?
Yes.
And then explain why you weren't able to determine what it is that he got from the closet.
He could have concealed it. He could have put it somewhere where I can't see it.
Okay. From there, then, what did Mr. Dinkins do?
Leave.
And then, did you see him go down the staircase?
Yes.
Did you continue to watch out the window?
I did.
What did you observe happening?
Car pulling off.
And was Briasia in the car when it pulled off?
Now, windows are tinted, you can't see through.
Okay, so at the point in time that he's in the closet, had you looked away from the window?
Yes,
Okay, and then when he's going down the stairs, do you go back to the window?
I do.
Had he already gotten inside the vehicle?
Yes,
And was at the point in time that he was pulling away?
yes.
At the point in time he was pulling away, did you see Briasia anywhere in the parking lot?
No,
Does Mr. Dinkins give you any explanation at all as to what is going on?
no,
Does he suggest to you that Briasia wanted to go home to be with her mother?
no,
Does he suggest that maybe she hadn't been feeling good and so maybe she's needed some medical care?
no,
Is there any explanation at all?
no.
How are you feeling when you note that he's leaving the parking lot and Briasia is no longer out there?
I can't even tell you.
Are you scared?
Very.
How then do things develop there at the apartment?
Well, eventually, Aisha and Mr. Dinkins come back with a first officer.
Before we get there, does Mr. Dinkins ever return to the apartment again?
To pick up Notorious, that's it.
Okay, so between the time that he left shortly after 3:30, did Notorious ever wake up?
No.
Do you recall telling law enforcement that he woke up and he was crying?
Mm-hmm. He woke up, and I told him your sister's gone, and then he started tearing up.
When you woke up the second time, what did you notice?
That she was gone.
What did you do at that time?
I got up
Why'd you get up?
because she was gone out the bed.
What did you start doing?
I looked around the house.
Was anybody else awake when you got up and started looking around the house?
Andrea,
What was Andrea doing?
looking at the back window where we was laying.
Where was Henry?
He wasn't there.
What were you thinking when you woke up and you notice Bree's gone, Henry's gone, and you're looking around the apartment?
That he took her.
Now, when you had said Andrea was looking out the back window, what room was she in?
The back room.
Where the bed was?
Yes.
And that window in the bedroom, if you look out that window, what would you be looking at?
The parking lot.
So when you're looking around the apartment, you don't see Bree. What do?
I asked Andrea where she was.
Were you given an answer?
She said she didn't know.
Did you ask any other questions at that time?
No.
What did you do at that point? Where did you go in the apartment?
I looked around the house and then I sat down.
Where did you sit down?
In the living room on the couch.
Do you have any idea what time of day it was at that point?
I think it was morning.
Why do you think it was morning?
Because it was a little bit daylight.
So it was starting to get light out?
Yes.
Dee, did you have a cell phone?
No.
At some point, do you recall asking Andrea for her cell phone?
Yes.
Why did you do that?
So I can call my mom or something.
Why did you want to call your mom?
Because it was just me there.
Did Andrea allow you to use her phone?
No.
At some point, did Henry come back to that apartment?
Yes.
He started tearing up. Explain what you mean by that.
Like starting to cry.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Tearing up.
Yeah.
All right. Then when Detorius started to tear up, or DL started to tear up, goodness, what did you do to try and calm the child down?
I told him to come in the living room and lay down, because I don't want you to come in the living room. And he did. And then not too long after, Mr. Dinkins shows up, grabs him, and they go.
All right. Do you know specifically what time Mr. Dinkins got back to the apartment?
I do not.
Now, can you give us a perspective relative to whether or not it was night or if the sun was starting to rise?
There was light.
Okay. Had the sun just started to rise around the time that he returned back to the apartment complex?
I believe the sun was already up.
All right. Was it still really early in the morning?
Yes.
Describe what happened when you realized he was back.
When he was back
Mr. Dinkins.
to come get Detorius,
Yeah.
I really can't explain it. Yes.
Describe his emotional state when he came into the apartment.
He was like normal.
What did he look like when he came back to that apartment?
He had a white shirt on and some shorts.
How was he acting?
A little weird.
Okay.
He came and got Detorius, came and got his clothes, said we gotta go, and left.
All right. Did you ask him about Briasia and where she was at?
I did not.
Okay. Did Mr. Dinkins make any statements to you about there were issues that had developed?
No.
You don't recall any of that?
No.
When you say a little weird, what do you mean?
Like different than his normal self.
How was he acting different?
It was...
Did he say anything when he came back to the apartment?
No.
What did he do when he came back the first time you saw him?
He came back, he grabbed something. I don't know what he grabbed, and he left.
So where did he go in the apartment?
To the back room.
And again, is that the room with the bed?
Yes.
Did you see where he went in the back room?
It looked like the closet.
Do you remember which closet?
The closet in the back room with the bed.
Do you know how many closets are in that room?
1 or 2.
So it looked like he went to one of the closets,
Yes.
and he appeared to have grabbed something.
Yes.
Do you know what that was?
No.
Did you see any talking between Henry and Andrea at that time?
No.
When he came back to the apartment, that first time you saw him, did you see Bree with him?
No.
After he grabbed something out of the closet, what did he do?
He left.
Right after he left, what did Andrea do?
She was still looking out the back window.
And again, that would be the window that looks in the parking lot?
Yes.
At some point, did you start to cry?
Yes.
Was it at that point that you started to cry?
Yes.
Why were you crying?
Because she wasn't there.
When you say she, who are you talking about?
My sister.
At some point, does Henry come back a second time?
Yes.
What does he look like the second time he comes back?
The same.
He appears to be wearing the same clothes.
Yes.
Is he still acting a little weird?
Not anymore.
What does he do the second time he comes back?
I don't remember.
At some point, do you leave with him?
Yes.
Did that happen the second time he came back?
The third time.
The third time. So he comes back a second time and then he leaves again?
Which time? Second or third?
The second time he came back and then he left again.
Yes.
Did you ask him any questions or talk to him at all during that point?
No.
Did you observe any talking between him and Andrea?
No.
So then he comes back a third time to the apartment?
Yes.
What happens the third time he comes back?
He comes to get me.
Again, what is he wearing at that point?
The same clothes.
How is he acting?
The same.
So normal at that point?
Yes.
When the two of you left, did he grab the bags of clothing that your mom had dropped off?
Yes.
Where did he put those?
In the car.
Which car?
It was a purple Camaro.
It was a purple car?
Yeah.
Do you know what kind of car it was?
It was an Impala.
Do you have any idea what time it was that you and Henry would have gotten into the Impala?
Morning.
All right. And then from there then, when you say that he came to get Detorius, had you discovered that his phone was still there in the apartment?
I did.
Tell us about that.
It was plugged up into like my work tower, but there was no charge. It was dead. So that was like early in the morning. So I took it off. I put it on the charger in the living room. And once it charged up and he came, I'm like, here, take your phone so I can call you.
All right.
And he took it.
All right. Now, when he came and picked up Detorius, what else did you indicate that he took?
A bag of clothes.
Did he leave the apartment at that point?
He did.
When he left the apartment, did you actually reach out to him right away?
I did.
Explain.
Because I was concerned. Well, what's going on? Talk to me. What's going on?
Tell me about that.
I tried to get him to talk to me.
And what was he saying?
He wasn't saying anything.
Did you find that troubling?
Very much so.
Were you asking him about Breasia?
I did not.
Okay. So what was the type of question that you were asking him?
What's going on? Is there anything I can do? Is there anything I can help? What's going on? He's like, nope, don't want your help. I'm like, okay. I don't know how I'm supposed to react to that, but okay.
All right. When Mr. Dinkins came, so then he leaves with Detorius.
Mm-hmm.
You call him?
Yeah, because he left it there. He actually left a bag. So I called him back that you left a bag here. He's like, okay, we're going to need that. So he came back, got the bag, and then left with Detorius.
Excuse me, Your Honor. We seem to have a lurker.
Now, I want to make sure that we're talking about the same time period, okay? So the morning where you woke up and Bree is missing, right? And then you and Henry get into the purple Impala. So in the morning, are you following me?
Yes.
Okay. So when you and Henry started driving, where do you go?
In the Impala?
In the Impala.
We went on a dirt road. It's like.
So when you got into the Impala and you started driving, was the dirt road the first place that you went?
Yeah.
The guy's house that you were just talking about, is that somewhere you went in the Camaro or the Impala?
I think it was an Impala.
So again, talking about the morning where you woke up and Bree was gone, you get in the Impala and you drive to a dirt road. Do you have any idea how long it took you to get to that dirt road?
Well, I was asleep.
You fell asleep? Did it feel like a long time?
A really long time, yeah.
A really long time?
Yeah.
When you got to the dirt road, what happened?
We was at this place, what is it? It had like trees.
Did the vehicle stop?
Yeah.
Then what happened?
And then we left.
Did anybody get out of the car at that time?
Henry.
When Henry got out of the car, what did you see him do?
Pour bleach.
You saw him pour bleach.
Yeah.
Do you know where Henry got that bleach from?
Walmart.
Were you with him when he was at Walmart?
Yes.
When the two of you left Andrea's apartment that morning, at some point, did you go to Walmart?
I think so.
Did it take a long time to get to Walmart?
Just a little bit.
When you and Henry got to Walmart, what did you do?
I had to sit in the car.
You had to sit in the car?
Yes.
What did Henry do?
He went inside Walmart.
Did you know why you had stopped at Walmart?
I had no idea.
While you were sitting in the car, what did you do?
Put his battery back in his phone and was playing a game.
So at some point you had seen Henry's phone in the car.
Yes.
Do you remember where it was?
By the cup holder.
By the cup holder?
Yes.
You said you had to put the battery back in the phone, is that right?
Yes.
Where was the battery?
Behind the phone.
Also in the cup holder?
Yes.
Do you remember what game you were playing?
No.
Just a game on his phone?
You said, is it on his phone?
A game on Henry's phone?
Yes.
When Henry got back to the Impala, did he have anything with him?
Bleach.
What did he do with the bleach?
He put it in the trunk.
Then what did he do?
And then we left.
What did you do with his phone when he got back into the car?
I hurry up and put it back.
You stopped playing a game?
Yes.
Now, you mentioned there's a dirt road. Did you do anything else to the phone before you put it back?
I took the battery out.
And why did you do that?
Because I didn't want to get in trouble.
Trouble for what?
Putting the battery back in his phone.
So after you left Walmart, is that when you went to this dirt road?
Yes.
Had you been to that dirt road before going to Walmart?
Can you repeat that?
How many times did you go to the dirt road?
Once.
And was that before or after you went to Walmart?
After we went to Walmart.
So then once you got to that dirt road, what happened?
He poured the bleach, and then we left.
Where did he pour the bleach?
By some bushes.
And where were you when this was happening?
In the car.
What did he do with the bleach containers after he poured the bleach?
He put it back in the car.
Once he put the bleach back in the car, what did he do?
He left.
Did he get back in the car?
Yes.
And where did the two of you go after that?
We went back on that dirt road, and then I asked him where he was, and then he said that we was riding, and then we went to go meet my mom.
So you asked where you were, and he just said, we're riding?
Yes.
What does that mean to you, we're riding?
Like a joyride.
Like a joyride?
Yes.
Now, after you left that dirt road, at some point, were the two of you back in Davenport?
Yes.
Now, Dee, are you familiar with the area of Credit Island?
No.
The morning you were driving around with Henry, at some point, did you go to some area by water?
I don't recall.
At some point, did you go to Henry's RV?
Yes.
What did the two of you do when you got to the RV?
He opened the trunk of the purple Impala and he grabbed out a bloody knife.
So he opened you said bloody knife?
A bloody knife, yeah.
From the trunk of his Impala.
Yes.
What did that knife look like?
A machete type.
What did he do with the knife once he grabbed it?
He wiped it off with bleach.
Where were you when you saw him do that?
I was outside the car or inside.
You were either outside or inside the car?
Yes.
After Henry wiped off the knife with the bleach, what did he do with the knife?
He put it in his RV.
Dee, was that the only time you saw a knife that morning?
Yes.
You said he put the knife in his RV?
Yes.
How did you know that's where he put the knife?
I saw him put it in there.
Where were you when you saw him put the knife in the RV?
In the car.
Were you able to see into the RV from the car?
No.
Then how did you know that's where he put the knife?
Because he walked in there with it and he came back out with nothing.
Did you go into the RV at all?
No.
Dee, at some point, did you see Henry with a fishing pole that morning?
I think so.
Do you know where you were when you saw him with a fishing pole?
In the car.
Was Henry inside of the car with the fishing pole?
No, he was outside the car.
When you saw Henry with the fishing pole and he was outside of the car, were you still at the RV?
No.
Do you know where you were?
It was by water.
What did you see Henry do with the fishing pole when he was outside of the car?
Somewhat fishing.
He was somewhat fishing?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
He was half fishing.
So did he walk up to the body of water?
Just a little bit.
And where were you when this was happening?
In the car.
When you saw him walk up to the body of water, what did you see him do?
Fishing.
Okay. Did he have the fishing pole at that point?
Yeah.
And did he cast the fishing line out into the water?
Yeah.
While you were by this body of water, was there ever a point in time where you could not see Henry?
No.
Now, the fishing part that you talked about here, did that happen before you went to the RV or after you went to the RV?
After.
Now, you mentioned that at some point you met up with your mom that morning. Is that right?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
She saw him in traffic.
Had Henry or your mom spoken on the phone at all that morning?
Yes.
And were you in the car when that conversation took place?
Yeah.
Do you know if Henry called your mom or if your mom called Henry?
I think my mom called him or he called her.
So one of those two things happened.
Yeah.
What did Henry tell your mom during that phone call? Defendant's statements.
Excuse me?
It's the defendant's statements.
Overruled.
So what did Henry tell your mom during that phone call?
That he didn't know where Bree was.
Did he say anything about having been out searching for Bree?
He said he was supposedly searching.
So he told your mom that he was searching,
Yes.
but you added the word supposedly.
Yeah.
Why did you add that word?
Because he wasn't searching.
Dee, the whole time that you had been driving around with Henry, did it appear that the two of you were looking for Bree?
No.
Did Henry ever roll down his window and yell out Bree's name or anything like that?
No.
Did he ever ask you to do that?
No.
Did he ever knock on anybody's doors to see if they had seen Bree?
No.
While Henry was speaking with your mom on the phone, did he say anything about the police?
He said that he made a report.
He said that he made a report.
Yes.
While you had been with Henry, did you ever see him make a police report?
No.
So after this phone call then with your mom, where did Henry take you?
She saw him in traffic and then we pulled over by McDonald's.
So your mom saw him in traffic and you ended up pulling over at McDonald's?
Yes.
Where did you go from there?
I got in the car with my mom and then she made a police report.
Where did you and your mom go at that time?
To the police department.
Did you go back to the area around Andrea's apartment at all that morning
With my mom?
with your mom?
No.
But you do remember going to the police department that day?
Yes.
And were you interviewed by the police? Did they ask you questions?
Just a little bit, yeah.
Did you answer their questions?
Yes.
Dee, do you remember driving around with police officers a couple times?
Yeah.
And were they asking you questions about where you and Henry went on this morning?
Yes.
And did you try to show them the places that the two of you had gone?
Yeah.
And did that include areas by where your dad's RV was parked? When you drove around with the police officers and you were trying to show them different places that you had been that morning, right?
Yeah.
Did that include showing them the area where your dad's RV had been?
Yes.
And did that include the area over by Walmart where you saw Henry buying bleach?
Yes.
And did you try to describe that dirt road as well?
No.
Did you try to describe the area where you saw Henry with the fishing pole?
I believe so.
And then July 10th, 2020, at 8:08 a.m. UTC time, Dinkins text telling me to call him.
All right, and then I need to correct something for the record. So it looks like we actually have accurate times here and we don't have to worry about the UTC time. So then your first text from Henry Dinkins came in at what time on July 10th?
On July 10th, the call me, it came in at, it looks like 8:08 a.m. Yes, 8:08 a.m.
All right. What ended up happening on July 10th relative to your work schedule?
Well, I had got woken up. My boss had called and asked could I come in. He probably called me about like maybe 7:42, 7:45-ish. Asked could I help come open up the store. They needed some openers. And I brushed my teeth and rushed out the door. I made it to Checkers maybe 7:59, 8 o'clock, 8:01, and clocked in.
And then when you got there to Checkers, did you clock in?
Yes, I clocked in, and then I got on the grill, and I got the text message, and I was trying to call.
All right. As we look at States Exhibit 38, the area that you've circled where your mother was at, were you at that residence the entire time from when you got home after dropping off the children until you had to go into Checkers that morning?
Yes.
All right. And so was your cell phone always at that location?
Yes, it was.
And so therefore, with your cell phone at that location, can we assume that your cell phone would have never moved during that period of time?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that I'm showing counsel what's been marked as States Exhibits 95-1 and 95-2. Now, what was Aisha's activities there at the apartment when she got home that evening?
Basically she took a bath and lay down.
All right. And then did Aisha sleep throughout the night and into the morning of July 10th?
Yeah.
All right. Now, did you become aware that Aisha was being called into work early, outside of her normal schedule, her scheduled time of 11 o'clock?
No, I didn't know.
Okay. At any rate, did your daughter end up leaving for work during the early morning hours of July 10th of 2020?
Well, I didn't know until she called me about Bridget, because I thought she was still in the living room asleep.
Okay. Where were you at that created that impression that your daughter was still in the living room asleep? Were you still in bed?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you didn't realize she'd been called into work early?
Yeah.
All right. When you were at work, and we see that entry for July 10th at 8:08, what developed from that point moving forward?
At work, or
Yeah.
just the day periodically? Well, so at 8:08, I had got a text that said, call me. I was trying to call Mr. Dinkins' phone. No answer. I want to say I called him twice. And then I sent a text message, and I told him that I wasn't going to play telephone. Call me when you get this message. I'm at work. And seconds later, he called me right back, and he asked me, was Bree with me? And I said, what you mean, is Bree with me? She wouldn't stay the night with you. I'm at work. That would make sense. And he was like, well, I just woke up, and she's gone.
Did he tell you that he just woke up and discovered that she was gone?
Yes, he did.
Did that conversation then occur after that first contact in your phone log showing that he called you at 8:08 a.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
When he told you that he just woke up and that Bree was gone, what was your reaction?
It was more just the feeling. The feelings had took over a lot, and emotions, and I was just yelling on the phone like, well, did you look around, you know? Because I kind of chucked it off because, like, it didn't make any sense. Like, stop playing, you know? Like, how you just wake up and she's just gone? Like, she's just not there in the house. And I was asking about, of course, Andrea and Detorius, because they were in the house as well. And he was like, I don't know. I just woke up and she wasn't there. And I'm like, well, have you called the police? And he's like, I'm going down there right now, because he was saying he was looking for her. And I'm like, well, why are you looking for her? And that's when I got the texting family members, let them know that Henry had lost Breasia, and it didn't sound right.
Tell us about the call that you got from Aisha then.
Oh man, I was still asleep when she called me. I can't remember the time, but I think it was between 8:30, 8:40. It was in between, somewhere up in there.
Sure.
When she called me and she said, Mom, Berasia missing. I'm like, what you mean Berasia missing? She said, Henry said Berasia missing. And I was laying, and then, from her tone of her voice, like she wanted to cry. So I jumped up. I'm like, what the heck you mean Berasia's missing? She said, Mom, Berasia missing. I'm like, then after I said that, then she said, well, I'm finna bring Detorius over to the house so I can go down to the police station and make my do the police report. And I said, okay.
All right. As a grandmother, emotionally, when your daughter had imparted that information to you, how were you feeling?
A little bit in shock.
Sure.
And my uncle insisted that I called the police, and I was at work and I was just crying, and I called the police, and I was trying to describe Mr. Dinkins to the person that I was talking to on the phone, and they stated that there was no one down there that made a call or anything like that. So I had to get off the phone with them because I had to scroll through and get Mr. Dinkins' number, because they were asking questions I didn't know. I didn't know what she was in. I didn't know what took place that night.
Please state your name for the record and spell both your first and your last name.
Mona Varela, Monavarela.
In what capacity were you employed?
And I was a police service journalist for the Davenport Police Department.
What does that mean?
I take reports, non-emergency reports,
All right. If an individual were to call 911, where would that call be directed to?
To the report taker. They would call the front desk of the Davenport Police, and then the call would get routed to me if I were the report taker at the time.
Is this the report that you generated from the call that came in at 8:29 a.m. that morning?
Yes.
All right. Now, what telephone number did you receive a call from?
563-676-4247.
Who was the individual that was making the call at 8:29 a.m. in the morning?
Aisha Terrell.
No, the person making the call.
Oh, I'm sorry. Aisha Langford.
When Aisha Langford called into the department at that time, describe what occurred during your conversation with her.
Okay. I remember her telling me that she wanted to report her daughter as I don't remember if it was a missing person or a runaway at that time. I asked her what the circumstances were, and she told me her age. She's a good kid, and that she went to her son's dad's house to spend the night. And we briefly talked about her going over to the dad's house with her son. They had a good relationship, that he was on his way to report her as missing, and she was worried about her daughter.
Did you discuss with her the fact that Henry Dinkins had not yet responded to the department?
Yes.
Okay, and in that discussion, what developed that would have directed the course of your further conduct?
Well, I ran his name, I ran her name, as we do every call that we get, and just reviewing on, stuff that I saw on the computer. That's when we move forward with other.
Further steps? Mm-hmm. From there, what directive did you give to Miss Langford as to what she should do?
I asked her for Henry's number.
Okay, and then did she provide a telephone number to you for Henry Dinkins?
She did.
Did you in fact call Mr. Dinkins?
Yes.
Okay, and when you dialed that number, were you able to make contact with Mr. Dinkins?
Yes.
Okay, did you have a discussion with him?
Yes.
What did that discussion consist of?
And as I said, I hear you're on your way here to the police department to report a runaway.
Okay, and did you say runaway or missing child?
I don't remember my exact wording.
At any rate, what developed in the conversation?
And he said he changed his mind, he wasn't on his way, but he did explain to me she's a good kid and never gets in trouble and does good in school.
Okay, when he told you that he changed his mind about coming down to the department, did you find that disturbing?
Yes.
Okay, and describe how the conversation developed between the two of you.
And basically what do you mean you're not coming down here? There's a missing kid. Said he changed his mind. I said, well, where's the kid at? And he says, I don't know where the kid's at. She just left. And he said I could talk to his son. I told him no, I wasn't on the phone to talk to his son. I was talking to him. Then he had his son try and say a few things, but I told him no, I wanted to talk to him, not to his son.
All right. What developed when you tried to get a hold of Andrea?
She did answer the phone for me. I told her who I was. I told her I needed her apartment number. She asked me for what reason. I told her there's a missing kid, and standard that an officer needs to go in and look to see if the kid's hiding or something like that. And she was reluctant to give me the phone number, but she eventually did give me, the apartment number.
Okay.
She give it to me.
Just as far as the conversation that you had with Mr. Dinkins, and then the follow-up with the girlfriend, Andrea, did that concern you?
Yes.
Explain.
And just the lack of nobody really caring for where she was, or that she disappeared or ran away or whatever the case was, there was a lot of flags.
Did you attempt to contact Mr. Dinkins again?
I did.
And what was the purpose for the second telephone contact with Mr. Dinkins?
To see where he was at. I told him that he needed to answer the phone when I called back.
Okay, and then did Mr. Dinkins give you any idea where he was located during that second telephone call?
No, he said he was on his way back to the apartment, so I gave him the benefit that he was back,
Okay.
on his way back.
Did he ever come in and place a report to you that Breasia Terrell was missing?
Did he?
Yeah.
No, he never showed up at the police department, no.
Who was the only individual to call in and report Breasia missing?
Aisha.
Okay. Did that conclude your involvement in this matter?
Yes.
I have no further questions. Have you had a chance to review the conversation that was recorded between yourself and the dispatcher when you called 911?
No.
No.
911, what type of emergency?
I'm on my way back to my house. I took this rally at 821 East Locust.
Okay, you cut out. What's going on?
I'm on my way back to my checkers at 1721 East Locust Street.
1721 East Locust, what's going on?
Well, my daughter was staying the night with my son's dad and my son, and I had went into work, and he had just called me and told me that he don't know how long she's been gone, nor what the hell she has on. She was last over by Jersey Meadows apartment.
How old is she?
She's only 9.
Okay, so you want to report her as missing?
Yes, because he doesn't know how long she's been gone, nor what she has on, or where she's even going. I haven't even got a call from her or anyone else.
Okay, let me give you another number so you can report her. You can file that report. Do you have something to write with?
Yes.
It's 563-326-7979.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
When you left Checkers, what direction did you head to go downtown to the Davenport Police Department?
I was heading west, so I was heading away from, so yeah, I think it was west, right?
On what street?
On Locust.
As you were traveling west on Locust, did you notice something of interest to you?
Yes, I did.
Describe.
I noticed Mr. Dinkins and Paula flying down the opposite way, making a really hard turn on, I think it's a left turn on Eastern.
Okay. What type of vehicle was he driving?
He was driving in a maroon Impala with tinted windows.
Okay. And then did you pass him when you saw him heading east?
Yes, and
what did you do?
I made a U-turn.
And then at that point in time, describe what you did.
I was speeding behind him, honking the horn. I was calling his phone, and when I finally got him on the phone, he said that he was headed to Jersey Meadows because they wanted to talk to him out there. And I was still on his bumper, honking the horn, and we had pulled over by the McDonald's on Northwest, or it's like Kimberly, East Kimberly, across the street from Walgreens by the Old Kaplan.
Describe what happened then when you got to the area of McDonald's.
Well, when I got there, I was screaming because the feeling wasn't, it just didn't feel right. And so I was screaming and I was like, give me my son. And like, where, asking him, where were you at? Where was Andrea? Like, this don't even sound like Breasia. And he's like, I don't know. I had just woke up. And he wasn't like making any eye contact. And so I snatched the toys out his arm, and he had gave me like these bags, one of the bags that I had when they had went to stay the night, and another bag.
Okay.
And I just snatched it, and he was like, well, I'm on my way out there to go speak to the officer or something. And I said, yep, and I'm going to be right behind you.
Okay. What happened next?
And then I followed him. We drove out there to the Jersey Meadow apartments, and we were talking to the officer.
When you arrived at the apartment complex, was there a patrol officer already on scene?
I can't recall off the top of my head. I believe so.
All right. Did you have contact with that officer?
Like, as far as speaking to him?
Yes.
Yes, we were out there speaking to him. He was trying to get me to calm down, but I couldn't calm down.
All right. Who had the initial point of contact with the patrol officer?
I'm not exactly sure who had that initial contact with the patrol. I'm not sure.
That's all right. And then while you were speaking with the patrol officer, did Mr. Dinkins ever become a part of that conversation?
Yes, he was smoking a cigarette, and he just was, I don't know. I just woke up, and she just wasn't there. I don't know. And I'm like, and I was screaming, and I'm like, it doesn't make sense, That's not true. He's lying. That's not true. And, he kind of was like, and so I proceeded to cuss him out still. And I left because I'm like, you know what? He's playing games. I don't believe nothing he's
Your Honor, I'm
saying.
going to object to this point. It's narrative and non-responsive.
Okay.
Sustained.
Okay. At that point, then, what did you say? Yeah, go ahead.
When I left,
Well, explain what you were going to say.
as to,
If I don't interpose questions and it becomes a narrative, that's objectionable. So then I'm asking a question. So then at that point in time, what did you say to the officer about Mr. Dinkins?
I'm going to object. That's hearsay.
I just told him that
Dinkins was... Just a moment.
Your Honor, she's describing her own statements to law enforcement.
Overruled.
Yes, I was like, I'm not hearing it. He's lying. I know he's lying. It just doesn't feel right. And so, I was still getting upset because he was just so nonchalant. He wasn't answering nothing. So I left. And
again, objection is narrative and non-responsive.
Your Honor, she is concluding the thought in terms of what it is that she did. That's
overruled.
I left and I went to my mom's house. And I dumped all the kids' school pictures out, and I tried to gather as many as I could. And in the midst of me doing that, I think it was a detective officer or someone had called me and had asked for me to come back to the fire station or something, because I told him I was at my mom's house trying to gather up family to come out there to, patrol that area and knock on a couple of doors.
all right.
Can you please state and spell your name?
Dustin Garner, DUSTINGARNER.
How are you currently employed?
With the Davenport Fire Department.
How long have you worked for the Davenport Fire Department?
Just under 2 years.
Back in July of 2020, were you still working for the Davenport Police Department at that time?
Yes, I was.
And did you have a particular position with the police department?
I was a detective assigned to the Special Victims Unit.
How long did you work as a detective with the Special Victims Unit?
Approximately 1 year.
So back on July 10th of 2020, at some point were you dispatched to 2744 East 53rd Street, apartment number 8 in Davenport, Iowa?
Yes, I was.
Why were you dispatched there?
I was sent to assist with the service of a search warrant at that residence.
At some point, did Aisha show you her phone?
Yes, I believe that was in the parking lot outside of the residence.
So showing you first State's Exhibit 7-1, what is being shown in this photograph here?
This is a contact for, it states, Tutorious Daddy.
And is that how Aisha related to was the contact?
States Tutorious Daddy.
And is that how Aisha related to was the contact name she had for Henry Dinkins in her phone?
Yes, it was.
What's being depicted here in this photograph?
That would have been the call log for July 10th under the Tutorious Daddy.
Does it show both incoming and outgoing calls and the times associated with those phone calls?
Yes, it does.
Showing you then State's Exhibit 7-3. What are we looking at in this photograph?
That would be a text message history.
And again, is this the same contact, Tutorious' daddy?
Yes.
And from looking at the messages, are you able to decipher which of the messages appear to be sent from this phone versus the messages that were received to this phone?
Yes.
And how do you make that determination?
Honestly, the different colorings.
And what are you able to tell us about the coloring of the messages?
Both persons sent messages back and forth between the two.
Showing you then States Exhibit 7-4. What's being shown here?
A further continuation of that text message history.
Now, specifically referring to, and I don't know how well you can see this on the screen, some text messages that appear to be sent. It says yesterday at 9:13 p.m.
Yes.
Was there a message sent to this phone at approximately that time?
Yes, there was.
What does that message say?
Good night, Mom.
And was there a response message sent that you can see in green?
Yes, I can't read what it is, but.
7-5. Again, what are we looking at here?
A further continuation of that text message thread.
And labeled there at the top, there appears to be a timestamp that says today at 8:08 a.m. Did this phone receive a message at approximately that time?
Yes, it did.
And what did that message say?
Call me.
And was there a response sent in green?
Just call me. I'm not about to play telephone.
And then at approximately 9:36 a.m., does this phone appear to send a photograph?
Yes.
Are you familiar with who is in that photograph?
Yes.
Who is that?
Aisha.
In States Exhibit 7-5, again, what are we looking at here?
A further continuation of that text message thread.
And labeled there at the top, there appears to be a timestamp that says today at 8:08 a.m. Did this phone receive a message at approximately that time?
Yes, it did.
And what did that message say?
Call me.
And was there a response sent in green?
Just call me. I'm not about to play telephone.
And then at approximately 9:36 a.m., does this phone appear to send a photograph?
Yes.
Are you familiar with who is in that photograph?
Yes.
Who is that?
Aisha.
Showing you then States Exhibit 7-7. What is being depicted here?
That would have been the call history as captured on the phone.
So previously in States Exhibit 7-2, there was also a call history listed there. What's the difference between States Exhibit 7-2 and 7-7?
7-7 is the overall contact history, or call history for the phone. 7-1, I believe it was, 7-2 is strictly the history for the contact to Toria's daddy.
And so while you were speaking with Aisha, again, she voluntarily showed you her entire call log that morning.
Yes, she did.
Ms. Langford, were you later interviewed by law enforcement at the Davenport Police Department on July 10th?
Yes.
Okay. In your conversations with the officer who was interviewing you, did you mention what you noticed about Mr. Dinkins and his physical appearance?
Yes.
Did you also mention what you noticed about his do-rag and, in particular, the tennis shoes?
Yes.
All right. Your Honor, may the record reflect that I'm showing counsel what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 128. When you were talking with the officer, did you have an opportunity to make observations about Mr. Dinkins' physical appearance?
Yes.
Describe what you noted about his physical appearance.
Well, he had a black do-rag on that wasn't really on. It was kind of like tilted a little bit. His little braids were out. His lips was white. He was chain smoking cigarettes. He had on a long white T-shirt, and it was dirty, like dingy, like not dingy, but like dirty type of, like as if he was fishing or something or whatever. But he looked dirty, and then I can't recall the bottoms he had on, but he just looked muddy, and he just looked it off.
Did you notice anything particular about the shoes that he was wearing?
Yes, they were some gold-looking type shoes. They were muddy looking. They weren't tied. Yeah, that's all I remember.
Then describe for us how the day proceeded for you on July 10th and your family.
Yeah, so we all met out there at Jersey Meadows. We were knocking on doors. Neighbors were coming out, and they were saying things. They were helping us out. We sat there while they were looking through the apartment. We was out there trying to reach contact with Mr. Dinkins. And, while we were looking and there was no contact there, we were just searching.
All right.
There was people coming out, people looking at the apartment, people asking questions and things like that.
Was there anything that came of that where there was information that would help locate Breasia?
No, it wasn't.
All right. Let's talk about Breasia's hair. Around the time period of July 9th and July 10th, how had she been wearing her hair?
She had some locks in her hair, and my cousin had just put some cute little pretty shells on it.
Okay. Did you tell law enforcement about the little seashells that had been interwoven into the locks of her hair?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you actually collect photographs for law enforcement so that they could see what those little seashells look like?
Of course I did.
Okay. Your Honor, may the record reflect that I'm showing counsel what's been marked as State's Exhibit 146-1. What are we seeing in this photograph?
In this photograph, you're seeing, I want to say this was back in June at one of my uncle kids' birthday parties. We were taking a family picture, and you see Breasia sitting here with her two frontal shells that she had, that she really liked it. That was so pretty.
All right. Does this show us, I guess, the maturity level of DL during the period of June and July of 2020?
Yes.
Has he grown quite a bit since this photograph?
Yes, he has.
All right. And within that photo, does that include you and then your older child, CS?
Yes.
And then going to State's Exhibit 146.2, describe what we have in State's Exhibit 146.2.
Well, here is just a picture that was taken between me and Breasia. They were doing something on Facebook with mommy duties photos, and we had taken this picture, and that was also to show that shell right below her little cheek down there.
Did she have these shells in her hair when she would have gone with Mr. Dinkins on July 9th to spend time with her brother over at the Dinkins Culberson apartment?
Yes.
Let's talk about Breasia.
She wasn't the type of little girl that would like to get her hair wet at all. It curled up. She didn't like that. So, I always, had it, restrained or something. She doesn't do the hair wet. She doesn't like storms. So.
Okay. Given the stormy conditions of July 9th of 2020, is that another factor that weighs into whether or not Breasia would just simply walk out of an apartment?
Yes.
Okay. Is Breasia the type of child who would simply leave an apartment in the middle of the night?
No.
Okay. Would she be the type of child that would leave an apartment in the middle of the night, particularly recognizing that there had been pretty inclement weather conditions during the evening of July 9th of 2020?
No, she wouldn't have.
I want to move forward to March 22nd of 2021. Did you become aware of 3 gentlemen in the Clinton area who had gone fishing and found human remains?
Yeah, yes.
How did you find out about that?
I got a call from Piper at like 7:33 that evening, and I never forget because it was a call that was just a call that I was waiting on. But he had called me and told me that he think that they had a break, and that he was heading out there, and I had knots in my stomach, and I'm like, oh, so what am I supposed to do? And because he had said that some remains were found or whatever, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I sat by the phone and I tried to wait and I tried to wait, and I drove out there the next day.
All right. All right. Describe the feeling that you had when you got out there.
Hell, it was a feeling that people told me from the beginning that I would feel it if I knew she was out there. It was like a snug on my heart, like, oh, you found me. That's what it was like.
And then with you being out in the area, describe what developed.
I stood out in the field.
Okay. Did officers share anything with you about something associated with the remains that would be a unique identifier for Breasia?
The shell in her hair.
All right. Were you shown the shells?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
All right. Did law enforcement locate clothing out there and any type of shoes?
I was shown a shoe, and I was like, oh, that was a shoe. That was the shoe. I kept explaining. That was the shoe. I was trying to say that was missing.
Okay. Your Honor, may the record reflect that I'm showing the witness what's been marked as State's Exhibit 4-40.
When did you find out how your daughter had been killed?
Well, I was just told that she was shot. That's all I know.
And who told you that?
One of I want to say Detective Piper.
Okay. Did he tell you that out there on the 23rd when you were there and identified the shells and the shoe?
No, that was later.
How much later?
Maybe a couple of days or something like that. It was because I kept calling, texting him and begging him to tell me something.
Sure, understandable. So it looks like there's 4 incoming calls to you at 8:11 a.m., right? You see that?
Yes.
From Notorious Daddy, right?
Yes.
So would you agree with me that Notorious Daddy, that's Mr. Dinkins, first of all, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He called you 4 times, ending at 8:11 a.m., right?
Yes.
Then you called somebody named Medea.
My mom.
Okay. And then you called Mr. Dinkins at 8:15.
Yes.
And then you called Bestie Nene.
Nene, that was a friend at the time. Nene, I called her. Also, someone that we had needed out there as people that was passing her picture around in the area.
Okay. Well, at this point, you haven't even called the police yet, have you?
No, because I had reacted to Mr. Dinkins was nowhere to be found, and I needed my family to come here, and I had called my uncle.
Who's your uncle? Uncle Earl?
Yes, that's Uncle Earl.
Okay.
And I got on the phone with him, and I was telling him that Dinkins said that he was downtown making a police report, and he said, don't believe that. He said, call that shit in, is what he said, sorry. Okay. He told me to call it in, and that's when that call was made to the police.
It took Uncle Earl for you to make a phone call to the police, right?
I'm sorry?
It took Uncle Earl for you to make a call to the police, right?
Well, I tried to trust Mr. Dinkins' word that he was actually looking for my daughter and actually downtown at the police department.
And there was a year or so where he helped you raise Breasia.
No, he never helped her. He was around. My sister and her husband had her a lot of the times.
Okay. So your sister and sister and her husband had Breasia?
Had Breasia majority of the time, yes.
You didn't?
Not necessarily. I was going through a lot.
Okay.
Like with housing, keeping a job and things like that.
Okay.
Let's just discuss Breasia's development. In terms of her physical development, at 10, had she started to physically develop?
Like body-wise?
Yeah.
Sustained.
Okay.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Please state your name for the record and spell both your first and your last name.
Jeffrey, Geoffrey, Pfeiffer, Peiffer.
What is your occupation?
I'm a police officer with the city of Davenport in Scott County, Iowa.
What date was the child initially reported as missing?
July 10th of 2020.
Were you significantly involved in that investigation?
Yes, I was.
Okay. What date was the child initially reported as missing?
July 10th of 2020.
Were you significantly involved in that investigation?
Yes, I was.
With respect to Breasia Terrell, when she was reported missing on July 10th of 2020, was there something distinctly different about this particular report as the day developed?
Yes, there was.
And explain.
I was contacted in the mid-morning hours of July 10th in 2020 by Sergeant Willie, who was the East Patrol Street Supervisor. He had been requested to respond to that location where Breasia Terrell was being reported as missing. When he contacted me, he informed me that this didn't seem like a typical missing kid that wandered off or anything that we would, be able to resolve anytime soon without additional resources, and he was seeking assistance from investigative assets to help with that call.
Okay. Who was the initial officer that was responded to a complaint of Breasia missing?
That was Patrol Officer Burkle.
Right. And what location had Officer Burkle responded to?
He responded to 2744 East 53rd Street, Apartment 8.
Okay. Who resided there at 2744 East 53rd Street, Apartment 8?
Andrea Culberson.
And then was Andrea Culberson involved in a relationship with anyone at that time?
She was the significant other to Henry Dinkins.
Prior to your current employment, where were you working?
I worked at the Davenport Police Department.
And in what capacity did you work for the Davenport Police Department?
I was their lead crime scene technician.
And how long were you employed as the lead crime scene technician?
For 12 years.
After processing the Chevy Impala, were you then asked to come to the police station to take additional photographs?
I was asked to take photographs of Henry Dinkins.
Do you recall approximately what time that would have been?
It was approximately 5:57.
Turn it this way here. You can see the rest of the photograph doesn't contain a picture of his face.
Yes, it does.
But you mentioned that as you arrived to the police station, this is how Mr. Dinkins looked. To your knowledge, did he have other clothing on before your arrival?
I believe I asked a detective about collection of clothing and they were taking care of that. So I'm not sure what his state of dress was upon my arrival.
But this is how he looked once you made contact with him.
Correct.
Showing you State's Exhibit 2-3. What are we being shown here?
So this will be his left side.
Here.
That is the back of the subject.
And then State's Exhibit 2-5. What's being shown here?
And that's an overview of the right side.
7. What is being depicted here?
So as part of the search warrant, I was asked to take photographs and document the condition of his hands.
8. What's being shown here?
So these are close-ups of the palms of his hands.
And again, anything of significance that you want?
Yes, I do.
And what are those exhibits?
These are the photographs that I took that day at Credit Island.
And do they fairly and accurately depict the shoe impressions that you observed on July 10th, 2020 at Credit Island, as well as that pink flip-flop?
Yes, they do.
On the lower left corner of this image, there is a picture of the white motorhome, which was described as the residence for Henry Dinkins.
Okay. Where was the RV located or stored at?
It was stored in the 700 block of South Schmidt Road in Davenport.
What relationship does that location have to the entry of Credit Island?
It's within probably 400 meters of Credit Island.
What is being depicted here?
That is the Credit Island sign that's located at the entrance of Credit Island to show the location of where we were at.
What are we looking at here?
So that is an overview of the area where the shoe impressions were located.
What's being depicted here?
So this is an additional overview, and this is showing more to the west where it starts to become wooded.
What's being shown here?
So that is an overview of the scene, and you can see the yellow markers that are indicating the shoe impressions that we've located.
What's being depicted here?
So this is going to be another overview of that pathway, slightly from a different angle, just to show how the shoe impressions are kind of wrapping around.
What's being shown here?
So this is an additional overview, and if you can, it's hard to see, but in the middle of that photograph are some additional evidence markers showing more shoe impressions that were located.
What's being shown here?
So that is a little bit more of a closer up, so more of an intermediate of that pathway, showing those evidence markers and where they're located.
What's being shown here in this photograph?
So that is a close-up of the shoe impression located by evidence marker number 12.
What's being shown here?
That is a close-up of the shoe impression located by number 9.
When you say cast shoe impression, what does that mean?
So we use what's called dental stone. It's similar to plaster. We get it in a powder form, we add water and we mix it. We pour it into the bottom of the impression, and then it hardens, and once it's hardened, we can remove that cast at that point and package it and submit it into evidence.
What's being depicted in this photograph?
So that's an intermediate of the flip-flop. It was actually a white in color flip-flop with the pink strap.
This is State's Exhibit 141. What's being shown here?
And that's another intermediate to show the position and its condition upon us locating it.
Then State's Exhibit 139. What's being shown here?
That is a close-up of the flip-flop once it's been turned over.
These flip-flops we heard about earlier, what trace analysis was done on those?
Which flip-flops?
The ones that were found on Credit Island?
There was nothing done with the ones on Credit Island because they weren't the color described to us.
Okay. Were there flip-flops found at the site where Briage's remains were found?
Yes, there was.
And those are the ones that more accurately were Briage's?
Yes.
Sergeant Spike Pfeiffer, speak to the weather conditions of July 9th in the evening and going into the early morning hours of July 10th of 2020.
The weather conditions were rainy and at times stormy.
Okay. Did that later become significant to the investigation?
Yes, it did.
And just to give us a brief perspective, why?
During the search of the maroon Chevy Impala, there was mud that was caked, stuck to the undercarriage of the vehicle, and that mud was still there several days after the vehicle had been seized. And we know that the vehicle drove quite a bit during the daytime hours without rain on July 10th.
Okay. Based on canvases and based on video footage that was collected, was there anything to support the theory that Breasia just got up in the middle of the night and walked away?
No.
All right. Was there video surveillance footage that was collected that would help establish the movements of Henry Dinkins during the middle of the night of July 10th and even into the morning hours of July 10th?
Yes, there was.
All right. Now, let's talk about other canvases that you conducted on July 10th. At any point in time down in the area of Credit Island, was there members of the public who were out and requested assistance because they thought they might have found something?
Yes, there was.
Describe that.
We encountered multiple phone calls to our 911 center that people had found different items of clothing they thought might have been relevant. We had a couple calls. One of them in particular was somebody called 911 and they were frantic, and they were on the phone saying that you just walked past us. You just walked past her. She's right there. She's in a tree. What are you doing? And this is just the frantic ramblings that I remember from those phone calls, and they made no sense. Our search parties were there when these calls were coming in, so there was a lot of calls brought into us, people saying they were mediums and psychics, and just a variety of things that we were unable to make contact with some sort of rational thought or solution.
You have no evidence, and correct me if I'm wrong, you have no evidence, no witness, no video, no pictures that puts Breasia Terrell in that Impala that night.
Andrea Culberson provided information that when she looked out the window, Breasia was next to that Impala in the early morning hours of July 10th with Henry Dinkins when he had came back to the apartment.
Again, my question is, you have no evidence that puts Breasia Terrell inside that Impala, right?
She was no longer in the parking lot after the Impala left the parking lot.
You have no witness, no trace evidence, no physical evidence that puts her in that Impala.
That's correct.
Okay. And when Andrea Culberson said she saw Breasia outside the Impala, she told you that Breasia was outside the Impala alone.
Anybody who has ever had a child or cared for a child would understand that when a 10-year-old that you're responsible for is missing and there is no sense of alarm, there's not a phone call made, there were no doors knocked on in the adjacent apartments, there was none of those things done yet by the time the police arrived in the daytime hours. And when you have these types of facts of a young child in an unfamiliar area and the person solely responsible for her has indicated that he has done nothing to try to find her whereabouts other than drive around in a large 40-some mile loop.
Did you have a chance to watch that video feed when he was inside the quick shop?
I did.
And as you watched him inside the quick shop, was there something of interest to you as you observed his behavior?
Yes.
Describe.
When the defendant was paying for his items, it was noticeable that he continually looked out at his vehicle while at the register. I don't know how many times, but it was a very frequent turning of the head to look out to the gas pumps and engage the clerk. And it appeared to be nervous behavior based off of watching a lot of video of people over the years. And I would take it to the point of he was walking out of the store without his change and considerable amount of money that he was frantic and just walked away without collecting his change until prompted by the clerk.
All right.
In the 10 days following the disappearance of Breasia, there was a homicide investigation that occurred in Clinton. Were you aware of that?
Yes.
And there was evidence seized in that case from a gentleman that a search warrant was executed upon his vehicle. Were you aware of that?
Yes.
Recall that person's name?
No, I do not.
Would his name Kyle Julian ring a bell?
I honestly don't remember the name that was provided in that one.
Okay. Do you recall that Special Agent Ron was involved in the search of a Dodge Challenger belonging to Kyle Julian?
Yes.
And tell the court what was found in the trunk of that Dodge Challenger belonging to Mr. Julian.
Of my recollection, I believe it was a white shirt.
Okay. What kind of shirt was it?
I believe it was a white T-shirt. Without seeing the document, I don't know for certain.
Was there any other shirt found?
I don't know off of memory.
Okay. What was the significance of these shirts?
It was relayed to me from Special Agent Rick Ron that there was potentially blood on it.
And these shirts were around youth size 10, right?
If that's what it reflects, I don't remember the size of it.
What was Breasia Terrell identified as wearing when she went to bed that night?
She was identified as wearing a large white T-shirt.
Whose T-shirt was that?
Henry Dinkins.
What size of T-shirt did Henry Dinkins wear?
4X.
And are we talking about a 4XL, a man's 4XL?
Yes.
All right. Is there a distinct difference between a man's white 4XL T-shirt versus a youth white T-shirt?
Considerable difference.
All right. After Henry Dinkins called Aisha Langford at 8:08 a.m. to report that Breasia was missing, did he go out to the apartment complex at Jersey Meadows?
Yes, he did.
Did he have some brief contact with a patrol officer out there?
Yes, he did.
Who was that patrol officer?
Officer Burkle.
Did he leave that apartment complex?
Yes, he did.
After he left that apartment complex, was his movements unaccounted for the rest of the morning until he showed up at the Davenport Police Department?
That's correct.
Was that of concern to law enforcement that his movements were unaccounted for?
Yes.
And during that period of time when his movements were unaccounted for, had law enforcement seized the RV?
Yes.
No, prior to noon when he came down. Had
No.
law enforcement seized the RV?
No.
Had law enforcement seized the black Camaro?
No.
Had law enforcement seized the Chevy Impala?
No.
All right. Were those vehicles seized then later on in the day?
Yes, they were.
All right. Sergeant Pfeiffer, when Breasia Terrell was found, the environment that she was found in, what's significant about that?
With respect to the environment, it was out in the open weather. Her body would have been exposed to the elements up until that particular time, which was just after the snow cap had melted.
And when her body was found, describe the condition of her body.
It's fairly disturbing. Most of her body was just skeletal bones, with the exception of her right leg. It had some mummified skin still attached to it.
Okay. With DNA then being subjected to the elements, do elements destroy things like DNA?
Yes, it does.
I have no further questions.
Wow. One thing I thought about, though, is when she said that she looked out the window and she saw Breasia. And I thought about the storm that the mother got stuck in. That means that maybe that little girl was standing out in the rain when she looked out there. But I know the ground probably was wet, right? Because it did rain. It was a really bad storm, they said. And the thing that didn't match up with what Andrea said is that she said she looked out the window, and then even the son said Andrea looked out the window when Dinkins was going downstairs. So how's it that she didn't see the little girl get in the car with Dinkins? That didn't make sense. Lot of stuff there, a lot of stuff. But I just wanted to put that together for you guys, and that's all I got. Later.